Christian views. Roman Catholicism. From the Fifth Council of the Lateran, the Catholic Church teaches that priests may not preach or declare a fixed time for the coming of Antichrist. The Church also teaches that it must undergo trials before the second coming, and that the Church's ultimate trial will be the mystery of iniquity. In Judaism, iniquity is a sin done out of moral failing. The mystery of iniquity, according to the Church, will be the religious deception. Christians receiving alleged solutions to their problems at the cost of apostasy. The supreme religious deception, according to the Church, will be the Antichrist's messianism, mankind glorifying himself rather than God and Jesus. The Church teaches that this supreme deception is committed by people who claim to fulfill Israel's messianic hopes: world peace, immortality, end of evil and suffering, no more poverty or pollution, etc. Such as millenarianism and secular messianism. Popes. Pope Pius IX, in the encyclical Quartus Supra, quoting Cyprian, said Satan disguises the Antichrist with the title of Christ. Pope Pius X, in the encyclical E Supremi, said that the distinguishing mark of the Antichrist is claiming to be God and taking his place. Pope Pius XI, in the encyclical Divini Redemptoris, compared communism to the pseudo-messianism of the Antichrist. Pope John Paul II, in his 18th August 1985 address on the apostolic journey to Africa, on his apostolic journey to Africa, said 1 John 4:3, "Every spirit that does not acknowledge Jesus does not belong to God. This is the spirit of Antichrist, evokes the danger of theology divorced from holiness and theological culture divorced from serving Christ." Pope Benedict XVI said in the Sunday Angelus of 11th March 2012 that violence is the tool of the Antichrist. In the general audience of 12 November 2008, Benedict XVI said Christian traditions had come to identify the son of perdition as the Antichrist. Pope Francis, in his morning meditation of 12 February 2014, said that Christian faith is not an ideology, but that the Apostle James says that ideologues of the faith are the Antichrist. In his morning meditation of 19 September 2014, Francis said, "The Antichrist must come before the final resurrection." In this morning meditation of 7 January 2016, he said the evil spirit spoken of in 1 John 4:6 is the Antichrist. In his morning meditation on 11 November 2016, Francis said whoever says the criteria of Christian love is not the incarnation is the Antichrist. Speculation. The prophecy of the popes, identified as a 16th century forgery by historians, claims Rome will be destroyed during the pontificate of the last pope, implying a connection to the Antichrist. Fulton J. Sheen, a Catholic bishop, wrote in 1951, "The Antichrist will not be so called, otherwise he would have no followers. He will come disguised as the great humanitarian. He will talk peace, prosperity, and plenty, not as means to lead us to God, but as ends in themselves. He will tempt Christians with the same 3 temptations with which he tempted Christ. He will have one great secret which he will tell no one. He will not believe in God, because his religion will be brotherhood without the fatherhood of God. He will deceive even the elect. He will set up a counter-church. It will have all the notes and characteristics of the church, but in reverse and emptied of its divine content. It will be a mystical body of the Antichrist that will in all external resemble the mystical body of Christ. Catechism of the Catholic Church. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, which John Paul II said is a sure norm for teaching the faith, puts the doctrine on the Antichrist under a subsection entitled The Church's Ultimate Trial, equating it with a supreme religious deception and pseudo-messianism of human self-glorification. Before Christ's second coming, the Church must pass through a final trial that will shake the faith of many believers. The persecution that accompanies her pilgrimage on earth will unveil the mystery of iniquity in the form of a religious deception, offering men an apparent solution to their problems at the price of apostasy from the truth. The supreme religious deception is that of the Antichrist, a pseudo-messianism by which man glorifies himself in place of God and of the Messiah come in the flesh. The Antichrist's deception already begins to take shape in the world. Every time the claim is made to realize within history that messianic hope, which can only be realized beyond history through the eschatological judgment, the Church has rejected even modified forms of this falsification of the kingdom to come under the name of millenarianism, especially the intrinsically perverse political form of secular messianism. Eastern Orthodoxy. Throughout history, various ecclesiastics of the Eastern Orthodox Church have identified the office of the Roman Catholic papacy with the Antichrist. Russian Orthodox Metropolitan Antony Krapovitsky, in explaining the necessity of rebaptism of Roman Catholics, Protestants and Nestorians, declared, "It is clear that by this regulation the Church does not recognize in heretics and schismatics either the priesthood or the other mysteries, and considers them subject to ecclesiastical baptism in the nature of things. The Church, by receiving Latins into communion in the same way as Nestorians, Council of Trullo 95, does not make any distinction between old heresies and the Latin one. I think that the Latins are considerably further from the Church, and they are worse than Monophysites and Monophilites, because they created a second Christ, i.e. the Antichrist in the person of the Pope, who is supposedly infallible. In a Christmas 2018 interview on Russian state television, Patriarch Kirill of Moscow warned that the Antichrist is the person that will be at the head of the World Wide Web, controlling all of humanity. That means that the structure itself poses a danger. There shouldn't be a single center, at least not in the foreseeable future, if we don't want to bring on the apocalypse. He exhorted listeners not to fall into slavery to what's in your hands. You should remain free inside and not fall under any addiction. Not to alcohol, not to narcotics, not to gadgets. Old believers. After Patriarch Nikon of Moscow reformed the Russian Orthodox Church during the second half of the 17th century, a large number of old believers held that Peter the Great, the Tsar of the Russian Empire until his death in 1725, was the Antichrist because of his treatment of the Orthodox Church, namely subordinating the Church to the state, requiring clergymen to conform to the standards of all Russian civilians, shaved beards, being fluent in French, and requiring them to pay state taxes. There are two conceptions of the Antichrist among the old believers: the spiritual Antichrist and the sensual Antichrist. The sensual means a particular person who will rule at the end of times for literal 3.5 years. The priesthood old believers mostly adhere to this conception. The spiritual Antichrist is said to rule in the heretical church and state as a spirit through many people. Since the year 1000 in the West and since 1666 in Russia, the true priesthood is considered to be lacking in the world due to abomination of desolation, which is synonymous with the rule of Antichrist. Most non-priested old believers adhere to this conception, except the so-called chassoveniers. Age of Enlightenment. Bernard McGinn noted that complete denial of the Antichrist was rare until the Age of Enlightenment. Following frequent use of Antichrist Latin rhetoric during religious controversies in the 17th century, the use of the concept declined during the 18th century due to the rule of enlightened absolutists, who, as European rulers of the time, wielded significant influence over official state churches. These efforts to cleanse Christianity of legendary or folk accretions effectively removed the Antichrist from discussion in mainstream Western churches. Church of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Antichrist is anyone or anything that counterfeits the true gospel or plan of salvation, and that openly or secretly is set up in opposition to Christ. The great Antichrist is Lucifer, but he has many assistants, both as spirits being and as mortals. Latter-day Saints use the New Testament scriptures 1 John 2:18, 22, 1 John 4:3-6, 2 John 1:7, and the Book of Mormon, Jacob 7:1-23, Alma 1:2-16, Alma 30:6-60, in the exegesis or interpretation of the Antichrist. Seventh-day Adventists. Seventh-day Adventists teach that the little horn power, which he, as predicted in the book of Daniel, rose after the break of the Roman Empire, is the papacy. The Western Roman Empire collapsed in the late 5th century. In 533, Justinian I, the emperor of the Eastern Roman Empire, which historians have labeled the Byzantine Empire, legally recognized the bishop, Pope of Rome, as the head of all Christian churches. Because of the Arian domination of some of the Roman Empire by barbarian tribes, the bishop of Rome could not fully exercise such authority. In 538, Belisarius, one of Justinian's generals, succeeded in withstanding a siege of the city of Rome by Arian Ostrogoth besiegers, and the Bishop of Rome could begin establishing universal civil authority. So, by the military invention of the Eastern Roman Empire, the Bishop of Rome became all-powerful throughout the area of the old Roman Empire. The Ostrogoths promptly recaptured the city of Rome 8 years later, in 546, and again in 550. Seventh-day Adventists understand the 1260 year as lasting AD 538 to 1798 as the supposed duration of the papacy's domination over Rome. This period is seen as starting from one of the defeats of the Ostrogoths by the general Belisarius, and as ending with the success of French General Napoleon Bonaparte, specifically with the capture of Pope Pius VI by General Louis Alexandre Berthier in 1798. Like many Reformation-era Protestant leaders, the Adventist pioneer Ellen G. White spoke of the Catholic Church as a fallen church in preparation for its nefarious eschatological rule in the antagonist against God's true church. She saw the Pope as the Antichrist. Protestant reformers such as Martin Luther, John Knox, John Calvin, William Tyndale, and others held similar beliefs about the Catholic Church and the papacy when they broke away from the Catholic Church during the Reformation.